Hi, thank you for joining me. My name is Amy Williams, and I'm the Director of Review and Adoption in the Instructional Materials and Implementation Division at TEA. In this State Review Panel training module, you will learn about the different types of reviews for instructional materials in Texas. During this module, you will learn about the State Board of Education's review and adoption process and the Texas Resource Review, or TRR. This module will take approximately 15 minutes and is packed full of information. Let's start with the SBOE's review and adoption process. Districts may adopt any materials that best meet the needs of their unique student population, regardless of whether those materials appear on the SBOE's adopted list. However, if they do select materials from the list, they do so with confidence in the extent to which they provide instruction in the TEKS or TPG and ELPS, their availability in accessible formats for students with print disabilities, their availability at an 8-year fixed cost, and that the materials can be easily and conveniently ordered through the state's online instructional materials ordering system. For subjects in the K-12 curriculum, the State Board initiates a review and revision of the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS. For pre-kindergarten, those standards are not under the purview of the State Board. Rather, the Commissioner convened a committee in the fall of 2015 to review and revise the pre-kindergarten guidelines and to ensure that the guidelines align with the kindergarten TEKS. Those new standards were effective for the 2016-17 school year. Once new standards are in place, the State Board considers a need for new instructional materials. If they find that the changes were significant enough to render the currently adopted instructional materials ineffective, they will issue a proclamation. A proclamation is an official solicitation for new instructional materials. It identifies the subject areas and courses to be included and contains a schedule of adoption procedures and publisher requirements. Proclamations are always named for the year in which the instructional materials are planned to enter classrooms. Once the proclamation is issued, publishers begin developing instructional materials for consideration that align to the new standards. And TEA facilitates an instructional materials review, which is what you're here to do. Reviewers are placed on state review panels, which are composed of educators, parents, industry representatives, and other subject matter experts. They review instructional materials and document findings to be shared with the Commissioner, SBOE, school districts, and the public. Those findings include the extent to which the materials cover the standards, factual errors discovered during the review process, and any feedback the team had regarding the materials. Around the same time, materials are available for public review. During the public review period, samples are available for review at TEA and at each of the 20 Education Service Centers. In many cases, TEA also posts access information to the proclamation webpage to make it easier for the public to access the materials and provide input. Any Texas resident may supply written comments or reports of alleged factual errors for the SBOE's consideration. Interested parties may also provide public testimony to the SBOE at the public hearing during the September meeting following the review. TEA presents reports to the State Board of Education. Those reports include the report of required corrections, which lists all errors reported by the State Review Panel and publishers, and the list of instructional materials eligible for adoption, which includes all materials that cover at least 50% of the TEKS or TPG and 100% of the required ELPS. Reviewers are released from the no contact period when this report is posted. If we receive any public comment regarding the materials under consideration, we will also provide that to the board. Then the SBOE takes a vote to adopt instructional materials. In order to be eligible for adoption, materials must meet at least 50% of the TEKS or TPG and 100% of the required ELPS. comply with manufacturing standards including accessibility standards, be suitable for the intended subject and grade level, and be reviewed by academic experts. Publishers begin working to correct errors and submit bids which contain packaging and pricing information for districts. The Commissioner contracts for the creation of accessible versions of print materials, and publishers submit special files to produce accessible materials and a report to verify compliance of digital materials. Next, districts review and select instructional materials, which are then adopted by their school board. Every district must have its own local policy to govern the review of instructional materials, and the materials must be selected by the school board or governing body in an open meeting. Districts must certify annually that they have instructional materials that cover 100% of the TEKS for each subject and course in the required curriculum before gaining access to allotment funds. Once the materials are adopted by the school board, textbook coordinators are then authorized to order instructional materials. When it's time to place orders, adopted materials can be ordered in EMAT or directly through the publisher. When ordered through EMAT, districts submit what's called a requisition. TEA pulls funds from the district's allotment to pay publishers, and the publishers ship the materials directly to the district. When ordering adopted or non-adopted materials directly with the publisher or vendor, districts pay for the materials and submit what's called a disbursement request in EMAT to pull funds from their allotment. In the summer following the review, TEA confirms that publishers made the changes listed in the report of required corrections. Publishers will begin shipping materials to districts for use in the fall. Now let's take a look at the Texas Resource Review. In 2017, the Texas Legislature passed a law requiring the Commissioner to create a web portal to assist districts in selecting instructional materials. Before placing materials on the web portal, the legislation requires TEA to facilitate an independent review of the materials to assess quality. Materials are selected for the TRR in one of three ways. Publishers can voluntarily submit materials. 10% of districts can make a request to have materials included, or the SBOE votes by majority. In September 2019, the SBOE voted to require all materials submitted in response to a proclamation also be reviewed through TRR. This applies primarily to materials for subjects in the foundation curriculum. Now let's look at the TRR process. We begin this process by developing a Texas-specific quality rubric designed for Texas standards. We recruit, select, and train diverse teams of Texas educators, including teachers and administrators, to serve as reviewers. These reviewers meet weekly to reach consensus as they evaluate materials and collect evidence, and then draft their reviews. Those reviews are validated by ESCs to ensure that the reports include proper evidence to support the scores. Publishers are given an opportunity to respond and revise their materials, and the final quality reviews are published on the Texas Resource Review website. I want to show you a quality review timeline using pre-K as an example. We collected public comment on the rubric through October 2019 and released the final version in December. There was a 6-month waiting period after the rubric was posted before reviews could begin, but publishers could begin applying for the review cycle between January and March of 2020. Reviews were conducted in June 2020 for the English pre-K materials, and we began publishing the reviews in December. Quality rubrics are typically divided into at least 4 categories. The SBOE review category shows the percentage of standards covered and establishes whether the materials meet the requirements for state adoption. Content and instructional concepts focuses on how well the standards are addressed and evaluates guidance for effective teaching and learning specific to the content. Educator supports focuses on tools and resources for supporting instruction and on guidance and support students and educators need to ensure all students learn and succeed. The additional information category provides information on technology, cost, professional learning, and additional language supports. If you want to learn more, please visit www.texasresourcereview.org. I hope you now have a better understanding of instructional materials in Texas. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit an instructional materials help desk ticket. Thank you and have a great day.